Yeah, there's a lot of power. I guess there's probably 1,500 horsepower on the front rail.
Yeah, I tell you what, we were just commenting, they're the two meanest looking machines we've ever seen.
Let's hope they just behave themselves for 25 laps.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, mean machines, all right. But that's 750 horsepower apiece, or 800 for Thompson, and only a miserable 700 for Allan Grice in the Chevy Monza. A great view. It's trying to attract the attention of someone. Is it Brian Thompson? Thompson in the doing everything except throwing rocks at him.
Interesting, Thompson's car seemed to be blowing a bit of steam there before, or smoke, and they have, as we're aware, been in all sorts of trouble changing turbochargers and so forth because it's a blue one, and in fact, if Thompson's car doesn't go well now, he plans to leap out of his car and jump into Tino Leo's car, which he practiced in yesterday.
Leo in a Monaro back to 9th spot on the grid.
So we could have a little bit of pre-race drama here, which could be all very exciting before the flag drops.
There's the field with the siren having gone. The row has to be cleared. They are mean machines. The Australian GT Chapter Hume's Guardrail Cup, round 3. Grice has won both of them in this car. The American Chevy Monza, very heavily modified both in power and in streamlining to give it down thrust. A deep nose dam across the front to keep the nose down. There were 16 starters in the race, by the way. A big airfoil across the back to put power down those wide back wheels. Look at them. You could roll a tennis court with that. And Allan Grice, fresh from a great drive at Le Mans in the 24-hour race where he drove with a team of British veterans who have a great reputation there. And Allan drove better than both of them. In fact, the Australians who went there have added to the lustre of our reputation as racing drivers, despite the fact that some had misfortune, Rockman, Perkins, Jones and Schubert. Their performances were such, along with that of Rusty French and Allan Grice, to make the overseas drivers say, hey, you've got other drivers apart from Jack Brabham and Alan Jones. We certainly have. And that looks as though Thompson will be driving Tino Leo's car.
I think you can bet on it.
I think that's a fair assumption that the turbo has blown. They had trouble with that particular turbo unit in practice. But when the other one blew up, they put the suspect one back again, and I think it has confirmed their worst suspicions. I just hope, though, that it's not laying oil around the track. Thompson is in a hurry to get back so he can get into another car. Those behind him,
nothing else.
Those behind him will be wishing that he wasn't there.
Yes, so we lost. Probably be a huge collision in the big smoke screen he's laid down. Although with the wind here, it's not staying on the track very long.
No, it's not Ash Wind today, it's Brian Thompson. He will go straight into the pits if he gets that far with his Mercedes, and he will abandon the car there and jump into Tino Leo's car.
I wouldn't imagine there'd be any need for any elaborate signalling. I think Tino Leo may know immediately what's going on because he's whizzing up behind him now and he'll bail out, no doubt.
I think the pit crew know, and I think at Tullamarine Airport they know. They just closed the airport for half an hour till the fog clears. I'm only joking, folks. The planes are still flying, but there was a lot of smoke there. Now Leo coming in as well in his Monaro, and he says, okay, take my car. Now, what Brian has to do, of course, is get round the track and get to the tail of the field, or he will start from pit lane, which is what he should do. But Leo has to get out, Thompson has to get in and be strapped in place. They're different in size, a very different car to drive. He was to have started from 9th place on the grid.
In fact, the race is going to start. He's classed as basic starter's orders because he's in the pit lane. The race has started. Brian Thompson is still being strapped in.
And there's a stop on the line there. Can't bet there's J.HUBBARD in the Falcon stalled on the line. He's last one away there, although if you watch that pit lane, you will see eventually Brian Thompson come out in the Monaro, but he's still being strapped into place, and he'll have to give them something like 3/4 of a lap start when he finally gets going, which is bad news for the man who was running in 3rd place in the Australian Championship. The man who's leading it, though, is the man leading the race. Here out of the pits now, with the rest of them 2/3 of the way around, goes Brian Thompson. Off he goes. He's in the race, and there's a lot of power in Tino Leo's car, and Brian Thompson knows how to handle it. Remember the way he used to drive that VW device, what, 10 years ago?
Yes, it was an intriguing car to say the least, and as you say, he used to drive it with great vim and vigour and was up amongst the leaders at the time.
So Brian Thompson giving them more than half a lap start. The others have crossed the start-finish line. He's round on the back straight. It's Allan Grice in the lead. Not a lot
Bob Jolly's very close to him, which is unusual. I wonder whether Allan might be having a bit of trouble. Sometimes those big tyres on that car take a lot of warming up. Especially on a day like today, it might take him 2 or 3 laps to warm them up, or in fact there may be something else wrong with the car.
Peter Fitzgerald in the Porsche, number 3, is also closing up there. It could be there's Peter's blue car. Peter in for a very busy day because he had to step out of the Porsche and get into the final of the Super Series. That's him in car 3. You've got to be strong, you've got to be versatile. Peter Fitzgerald certainly is both of those. There he is, right up there in 3rd spot in the Porsche.
I suspect from the way Grice was dialing the wheel then that he may be in a bit of trouble with cold tyres, because he seemed to have a very bad understeer into the top of the circuit up there. His hands are twitching and dialing all sorts of numbers.
Robert Doherty following Peter Fitzgerald, the man who's watching now on 3. He goes right on the inside of Jolly and said, thank you, I'll take 2nd place. Maybe cold tyres affecting a few others, because the way Jolly went off, it was a classic case of tyres not being warm. Car 39, that's another Chevy Monza, just wheeling off the track. Jeff Monday decides that Sunday is not his day. That must be the world's biggest fin across the back there.
Yes, they seem to have caught on these big tail fins. It was one of the things that was allowed when this GT category came in. They were allowed to have bigger airfoils on the back and to hang them out the back like that, and it gives them quite a big mechanical advantage in leverage, because they are so far back from the wheel line that it multiplies the downforce of the wing by quite a considerable amount, because they've got that mechanical leverage over the wheels.
Allan Grice leading in the Recar Chev Monza, won both of the opening rounds. He'd like to make it 3 in a row. Peter Fitzgerald in 2nd spot in the Porsche. A real battle going on behind with Doherty and Jolly, Tirana and Commodore. The Chevy Monza is only a small car, but you'd never guess it by all the appurtenances that have been tacked onto it.
It's a mean machine. It looks like a little bit like the Batmobile, I think. Certainly a very strong car, and it was overtaxed, I think, when it was racing with Alan Jones in the Porsche, but I think now that it's back amongst what it was designed to run with, it's quite a competitive car.
25 laps is the distance in this race. Grice started in the pole position with Brian Thompson in the Mercedes alongside him. Thompson, of course, couldn't start with the replacement turbo on his Mercedes having blown up in the warm-up lap. He's now still making a heroic chase in Tino Leo's Monaro, started halfway around the circuit. Started that far behind the leaders, to be more accurate. There's the man leading the race. The tyres are warming up now. Not quite the same sawing at the wheel, but Grice still takes it a little bit gently, I think. He's in the front, but we might have expected him to be a bit further in front. It's Peter Fitzgerald 2nd in the Porsche, then Robert Doherty in the Tirana, car number 58, 3rd. And Allan Grice almost leisurely there behind the wheel. He just chose a line and stuck to it. Hands didn't move on the wheel all the way around the corner, around Albany, the long sweeping right-hander at the end of the main straight. Here they are on the back straight now, General Credit straight. A right-hander, then a left-hander through the S's. The field following through. Fitzgerald, then Doherty, then Jolly. Here's Doherty. What great cars the Tiranas were in Australian motor racing. We now see them continuing in the GT and Sports Sedan series, and this is the leading one, Doherty's Tirana. Well and truly disguised by its aerodynamic devices, but right up there in 3rd place.
Actually, poor old Fitzgerald is going to be, as you said before, Evan, is going to be a bit puffed out by the end of the day, and it would be no mean feat to jump out of a car like the Porsche and hop into the Starion, because the handling characteristics would be tangentially opposite, I would say.
So after 5 laps with 20 to go, it's Grice in front, Fitzgerald, Doherty, Jolly, Burke, John Burke and Tony Hubbard rounding off the top 6. They're starting to thread their way through some of the slower cars now. Only 1.6 kilometres or 1 mile by the old measurement around Calder, so it doesn't take long to start lapping cars.
That car that they just passed, that white Mustang, is the ex-Pete car from the 1967 era. It's running around as a sports sedan in much gutted condition, but I think it would be wise if only it wasn't so young, in the sense that it's a 67 model. It should be running in the Group N category, I think.
And if you're wondering what's happened to Brian Thompson, the news is that he's still out there, but he is in fact being overtaken by Allan Grice. Grice still behind him, but of course the Tino Leo Monaro isn't as fast a car as the Mercedes that Thompson had to abandon, and he is in fact dropping back, still going quickly, but not gaining on the others, and in fact we might expect to see him being lapped before the race is over. There he is.
He's in position 14, which, as I say, is a long way back, and he's not really the sort of car that he can do much with anyway, in the sense that it's an outright winner. It's certainly a very, very fast car, as I said before.
But you can see the leader, there's the ominous red snout of the Bob Jane Monza with Allan Grice at the wheel, pulling out, and he's been no more than 200 metres behind the Monaro, which Brian Thompson is driving. Thompson wants points because he's running third in the championship. Allan Grice leads with 60. Mark Trenoweth, who runs up to, I think it's a Jaguar, isn't it? Yes. He qualified back in 16th spot. He's in second place with 49.5. Then Brian Thompson, this man, with 40.5. So he would like to add to it. If he keeps going, he'll pick up some points possibly. John Burke, then the 21. Jeff Barnes with 21 also. Doug Clark on 90. That's not a good place to pull up. It's the Monza that's in trouble. The gap, by the way, between first and second is only 1.48 seconds. You see them going across the line now. We see Jeff Murphy.
Certainly Fitzgerald is very, very close to Grice, which is
yes, that was Jeff Munday's Monza we saw, but yes, they're certainly closing up on him. Fitzgerald has drawn much closer. 9 laps have gone by, 25 laps is the total distance, so there's plenty of room for them to catch up. Here's Brian Thompson about to be lapped. Pulls out, he's, yeah, I was going to say he saw him coming, maybe he didn't. There wasn't a great deal of space there, but enough for the Chevy Monza to get through, and Thompson has to suffer the humility, not only of abandoning his own car, humiliation rather, but of being lapped by Allan Grice, a man he reasonably hoped he might have beaten in today's race. And goodness knows, Grice is down a little bit on performance, I think, and if only that Mercedes had been going properly without the blown turbo, goodness knows what Brian Thompson might have done. It's Peter Fitzgerald's chance to try and get by, but he won't get by in the straight because the Monaro is a quick car in a straight line. It's a real feat too, John Shepard, for a driver to step out of his own car into a stranger's car and expect to drive it quickly in the race.
Very, very difficult indeed, Evan. And I think if he'd had 40 or 50 laps in the car, he'd still be hard-pressed to drive it as fast as he owned, unless he was some sort of star, which he is obviously, but I think he gets the point I'm making. It's very difficult to... The characteristics of the two cars would be chalk and cheese, I would imagine, and it says volumes to the man who can even drive it at all at competitive speed, let alone to be up there with the leaders, because it is very, very difficult.
Well, he's running in 14th place. He started a long way behind anyone else, so that's a great effort by Brian Thompson, but maybe not the sort of day in which he's going to go home back up north to Shepparton with a bag full of the points he wanted. Here they are after 10 of the 25 laps in the race. As you can see, only 1.5 seconds is the margin between Allan Grice in this car, the Rica Monza, and Peter Fitzgerald in the Porsche. Jeff Monday, by the way, who we saw in the Monza pulling into the pits, has just gone out again, so he's back in the race. Allan Grice with a 1.5 second margin, maybe a little bit more now over Peter Fitzgerald. Look at the width of those rear tyres. You see, reasonable width front tyres, enormously wide rear tyres. Rear engine, all a massive amount of power, but not of course the same sort of power that the Chevy Monza has, and also the Porsche is a heavier car.
He's lapping his 44 too, Evan, which is a fair bit below his capacity. So as you say, for some reason Grice is in fact going slow, and it might have been very, what may or may not have been, I suppose it's not all that interesting, but I'm sure Brian Thompson would be saying if only, because obviously there was something wrong with the Monza.
John Burke running back in 6th spot in the Toyota Celica. He also has some points on the board. 21, he's running 4th in the series. 6th in the race. Allan Grice won both rounds, well on his way to making it 3 in a row. Has been a star of GT and sports sedan racing in various cars. Ran the BMW Turbo for a while. There's John Burke, car number 77. Qualified 7th on the grid. Doesn't have a Toyota engine. This Mark Trenoweth, I think, alongside. And here's Jeff Monday again for his second visit to the pits. I'm sure he gets on very well with his pit crew, but they'd rather not see him so frequently. Wonder what the trouble is. Maybe we can find out from Stephen Phillips down there in the pit.
All off, Evan.
Under the bonnet, something to do with the engine, apparently, Stephen.
Evan, the fuel injection playing up doesn't look very good at all.
All right, thanks, Stephen. It looks pretty cold down there. What's it like out on the track?
Very, very cold.
You could do with a bit of fuel injection yourself.
Certainly. We just might have a word with the driver himself.
Yeah, it must be terribly frustrating for Jeff. He's been in the pits twice. He had a spin. If the injection's playing up, he probably had the motor cut out, which you can't control a car going quickly if you've got no power.
Nothing seemed to be going right. Yeah, we've had problems from the very start. We can't get second gear. It's very difficult to get back on the second gear, and I've overridden it a couple of times. I don't know how much engine damage it's done. Also slipped the drive on the oil belt, so that finishes up for the day.
A lot of work ahead this week.
Yeah, my word. Great.
Thanks. Back to you, Evan.
Thank you very much, Stephen. He's got more troubles than most of us would like, and the race then, in its closing stages, still being led by Allan Grice. We'll come back to see just how he gets on in the final stages of the Humes Guardrail Cup for the third round of the Australian GT Championship here at Calder. It's still Allan Grice in the lead. In second place, as before, the Porsche of Peter Fitzgerald. In car 15, Tony Hubbard in a Falcon. He's up in the third spot now. And some of the other cars showing that they're just as quick in a straight line virtually, but it seems to be around the bends and then braking that Grice and Fitzgerald are scoring. But some of them are very, very fast. You see them going just as quickly on the straight.
Yes, and certainly in this particular category, because you can walk in and buy yourself virtually 600 horsepower in a 350 Chev, and you can go and buy the big wheels and the big tyres. And as you said, it's not difficult at all to get straight line speed. It becomes very expensive and very, very difficult to get the sort of sophisticated suspension and engineering that's gone into this Monza here. It looks relatively simple on the outside, but it is a very, very sophisticated car inside.
Talking of sophistication, the car is about to pass is a sophisticated one in its original concept. It's the Jaguar XJ-S. Mark Trenoweth is driving it. And one must ask John Shepherd why it is that what are fairly simple cars in their basic form, like the Chevy Monza of America, can be turned into racing cars that will beat other developed racing cars like the Jaguar.
I think one of the things, Evan, that comes into it with our regulations that we have out here is we're allowed to run a 6-litre engine across the board now, but at the time when all these cars were built, cars that came out with a 6-litre engine originally were allowed to run one. So people would have a look through the list and say, okay, well, the Chevy Monza, you can run a 6-litre engine. So they'd rush out and buy one, and then they would build a very, very sophisticated racing car under that outside shell, which is really all that is. Practically none of that Chevy Monza is the original part, the original setup where they had to have the original floor pan has gone by the board, and the cars are virtually just a racing car, similar in aspect to what the 956 Porsche is.
And with 5 laps to go, that's the position. Grice in front, 7.96 seconds the margin now back to Peter Fitzgerald. So Grice seems to have this race comfortably in his grasp. Tony Hubbard is up there, a good effort by him. He's worked his way through the field. And the Mustang, the old one you were talking about, is it?
Yes, it's Councillor Bob Gill has retired to the pits. It's quite funny, Bob's a councillor on BRYAN Council. And,
he's got a quorum there in the pits.
He's got a quorum, that's right, yes. Quite a character in Australian motorsport, affectionately or otherwise referred to as Spinner Gill, because he seems to have the odd spin on occasion.
Not a gambler.
Not a gambler, no. I think they're referring to the vehicle itself, not to the coins.
Less than 3 laps to go now. And Allan Grice, the victor in the first 2 rounds of the championship, seems to be well on the way to his 3rd successive victory.
With a bit of luck, Stephen Phillips might be able to get a few words from Bob, because I'm sure they'd be gems.
I'm beginning to ask me. Had to ask him to say, come in spinner. I think you would know. Allan Grice about to go across the line with only 2 more laps to complete now. There he goes. Gill being pushed away. There's Stephen in position, but I think the council's having a meeting on his own. Yes, Stephen.
We're out of fuel down here. We're going to get some more in and go out to the last lap.
Oh, what frustration. So close to the end of the race and to run out of juice.
Well, at least we got away from him, I suppose, which is the start. I think he probably got tired.
Well, let's hope that nothing as disappointing as that happens to Allan Grice. And it's noticeable the way the tyres have warmed up. His hands on the wheel now. A little bit of movement, but once he sets the line, he just holds his hand there and steers it gently through the corners. He's slowing down, surely. He's slowing right down.
Stopping.
He's stopping. With one lap to go, the car has stopped. Allan Grice is out of power. Something's happened, Stephen. I don't know if he's coming into the pits or not. But Allan Grice in trouble, just cruising towards the pits there. He's been leading the race from start to finish. He's covered 23 and 7/8 laps. He's going to drive up towards the line. I think he's hoping just to pull up and cross the line when the next flag goes. No, he's going on. Into the lead goes Peter Fitzgerald, and Allan Grice will stop just short of the line. He's got trouble. He's going to pull up just short of the line. He's going across the line. What's he doing?
Well, he's tricking himself doing that. Well, I suppose he could be classified as a finisher, but
yes, it'll make no difference, I suppose, in terms of laps, but Allan Grice, what a disappointment. Less than, well, one lap to go. Peter Fitzgerald then, what a great day this might be for him. He's gone to the lead. 15, Tony Hubbard is next. Then car number 58 up into third spot. Robin Doherty in the Tirana. He's moved to third now. Bob Jolly's gone up into fourth spot, and Trenoweth in the Jaguar will move up into fifth. So Peter Fitzgerald can hardly believe he's luck.
Here's another one wandering down the straight. That's GILL running out again. He hopes the wind will blow him over the line. Oh, he's going to struggle down by the look of things.
But Peter Fitzgerald has gone there to a surprise victory. One lap from the finish, he must have been resigning himself to the fact that second place was as good as he could hope for, and that this man was going to win the race. He's down there with Stephen Phillips now. An upset-looking Allan Grice. What's the story, Stephen?
Fuel pressure. Just lost fuel pressure. Geez, it's disappointing. His perfect position. Short mistakes.
Yeah, just lost fuel pressure, which indicates it's run out of gas. It's not picking the fuel up, or it's got maybe a fuel pump malfunction. But in any case, it's lack of petrol for one reason or another.
Geez, I can't imagine what you were thinking as the frustration caught up.
Yeah, I thought of a few words that I hadn't thought of before. It's a long time.
Thanks very much, Alan. And hopefully we might get you up in our commentary position with Evan a little later on.
Yeah, surely.
Thanks.
Fine.
Thank you, Evan.
Fine, thank you, Stephen. Well, I don't know where we put the knocker on him. We said, let's hope he doesn't have the disappointment of running out of fuel, like your friend Mr. Gill.
Well, there we go. It's certainly wasn't intentional.
And
so I hope when he's looking at the replay, he doesn't say, well, with our fault.
Peter Fitzgerald, then, I think he'd be surprised. He'd be delighted. But I'm sure that with a lap and a half to go, he said, okay, second place isn't bad. At least it'll lift me up in the points a little bit. And not that he's got many in this.
No, he doesn't have any at all. So now he does have.
And Tony Hubbard with a good second spot, he'll be delighted. He had trouble earlier in the day getting the car right, but a great run for the Falcon driver up into second spot. That's a lot of points for him. Again, so that's the way they finished in a surprise result in the Humes Guardrail Cup for the third round of the Australian GT Championship. Peter Fitzgerald in the Porsche, Tony Hubbard second in the Falcon, and Bob Doherty in the Tirana. That's the way they finished.
Peter Fitzgerald, the eventual winner. I don't think that you would have ever dreamt that with 2 laps to go.
Nah, you're right. Grice was obviously taking it easy, and I wouldn't have thought that towards the end the handling on the Porsche started to go off, the tyres went off, and I was hanging in there for second towards the end.
Well, Bob Marks from Humes will make a presentation which should warm you up a little tonight.
Thank you.
It's Peter on behalf of Humes Limited. Thanks for the great race, and all the best for the rest of the series.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Humes for sponsoring this series, and my sponsor, Stanley Electronics. Thank you very much.